Hello, we are here. We're Team Up for Hope, and a little bit about us. We are an all volunteer 501c3 nonprofit organization that seeks to address the impact of mental illnesses, substance abuse, and suicide in our communities by raising funds and awareness for local nonprofit organizations at the forefront of these crises. My name is Amy Green, and we are here this evening with Kevin Lundell, our special guest, and also our president of Team Up for Hope, Wayne Patterson, who will take it away.
Okay, thank you, Amy. Here we are, Team Up for Hope. Yes, I'm the president, and we focus, our main focus, as Amy said, is focusing on the impact of mental illness, addiction, and suicide. And before I dive in and talk to our guest, Kevin Lundell, Amy didn't mention she's actually one of the co-creators of Team Up for Hope. And in a future webinar, we will have her and the other co-founder, Joffrey Green, kind of share on a webinar how they created it, why they created it, and how we got to where we are today. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce a gentleman that I've known for, I'd say 4 years, going on 5 years now. And we've become friends over these 4 years. He is Kevin Lundell, and he's a CASAC-T, he's a CRPA, CARC, and I'm not going to tell you what those are. He is going to, and he's going to share how we work and help with those that are sick and suffering. Kevin Lundell, welcome, my friend.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. Thank you for having me.
So share with us a little bit about yourself first.
Sure.
And we'll dive into questions and acronyms, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Sure. So my name's Kevin Lundell. I'm 45. I predominantly lived in Orange County pretty much my whole life. Had a few geographical changes after high school. I'm a father to 3 beautiful girls, Callista, Shay, and Elodie. They really are awesome. I mean, I think a lot of parents probably say the same thing about their kids, but I'll challenge you on that. So I grew up in this area, on and off, seemingly normal childhood, graduated from Goshen High School. Didn't really know what I wanted to do. I had like, a toe in the water with the military, law enforcement, culinary school. And somehow I landed in going to a tech school. It was called the Satone Institute, which is now Lincoln Tech down in New Jersey. So I went to school to do systems administration, graduated from there, and went on to have an IT career. Like I said, I kind of hopped around a little bit after that. I lived in Pensacola, Florida for a couple of years, but ended up moving from the real Florida back to the fake Florida in Orange County, Florida, New York, and, settled down in there. My kids go to school there. And, shortly after doing 20 years in the IT world, after 20 years of doing that, I decided, well, I didn't really decide. It was sort of decided for me, and we can get into that later. I wanted to be helpful. I wanted to be useful. And for many years, I was in the corporate world, and I wanted to be important when I was in the corporate world. And as I got older, I started to learn that I wanted to be helpful. I wanted to be useful. It didn't matter about being important anymore. So I was working at a hospital in New Jersey, and I was doing really well. House, kids, cars, and I got laid off from that job. And I struggled to find another IT job. I applied to a lot of different places, and I just never was able to land on anywhere. So I was perusing social media and, keeping my eye out for anybody that was looking for part-time work. During this time that I was laid off for 11 months. I was a stay-at-home father, and it was incredible. It was really an incredible experience to be able to be that person that was home, taking care of the house, going to the kids' appointments, to the school stuff. I joined the PTA, moved my way up to become the president of the PTA at our school, and all these crazy things. And I share this part of my journey in my life. Not to brag, but it was a very humbling experience for me, because I was making six figures in the IT world, and everything seemed fine. And a few months later, I was crying at the Florida food pantry because I had no food to feed my kids. And so that was a very humbling experience, very humbling. And, I was very lucky because the people in our community are just great. They know people's journeys and stories. And the woman at the pantry, she pulled me aside and said, "I'm going to walk you through this step by step. We'll do this together." And it was awesome. And, and that's how we survived for a couple of months. It was just what we had to do. And thank God that those things are there for people. So back to social media, I kept seeing these ads pop up for become a recovery coach. And I didn't really know what a recovery coach was. I thought maybe it was like a life coach. And I'm like, how am I going to tell people how to get their life together when life felt like it was on fire every day? And but the PTA really was giving me this like motivation to like help people and to be a part of things, and to like, seeing these kids, their eyes light up when they would walk into the events at the school, or, just organizing, the events that we did. But I wanted more. I wanted to help more and try to be, again, be helpful, not necessarily important. And so there's a place up in Ulster County. It's called Samadhi. And Samadhi was offering these recovery coach trainings, and way down at the bottom in very fine print, it said, if you need financial assistance, don't reach out. We have some scholarships available. So I called and I said, "Hey, I'm interested in this." Didn't know really much about Ulster County, but the gentleman who I spoke to on the phone, he said, if you want to be considered for a scholarship, why don't you come on up? We'll meet, we'll hang out for a little bit. And so I made an appointment. I went up and I sat with this gentleman. His name was David. And we talked for about 30 minutes. He asked me some pretty basic questions about who I am, what am I doing, and why do I want to do this? And a lot of it was, I don't know. I don't know, but here I am. And he looked at me and he said, "There's something about you. I think you're going to do really well at this. So I want to give you a full scholarship to come here." And so I said, "Awesome. Okay. I'm not working. My weekends are free." So, and that's when the schedule was for the class. So I banged out like, I want to say it was like 6 Saturdays in a row. And, they were pretty intense. They were from like 8 o'clock in the morning till like 5 or 6 in the evening. You had to meet course requirements. We had to, check all these boxes off, ethics. And so what that course really was, it allowed me to become a CRPA or a SERPA. And really what that is a certified recovery peer advocate. So I became a recovery peer. And what is a peer? A peer is somebody who has lived experience. And so putting those together, I'm a person that's in long-term recovery. And now I get to be able to go out and help other people understand that like they're not alone, and like they're not the first person to go through these feelings, emotions, and have to go through the steps. And, what better way to do service and to be a part of something to help people. And so it was cool. By the time I finished that course, I for some reason, I couldn't land on a job in 11 months. I mean, I definitely believe that was not by my doing. Before I finished that course, I had 2 job offers. And I ended up becoming a peer full-time at a place in Middletown called Access Supports for Living. I was working as a peer advocate in their urgent care. Now they have an urgent care that's not like an urgent care where like I might need to go get an x-ray because I jammed my finger. It's an urgent care for people who are suffering from mental health or substance use. And it's a walk-in clinic. So you can walk in and see anybody, same day, get connected to services, get the help that you need. And also, there was this little known thing called COVID that was really starting to, come to life, come to fruition. And so I was out of work for 11 months, safe at home with my family, and now I have to go to work every day. And like, mid 2019, when everything was really starting to go get real hot, and they shut everything down. We were in front of the TV every day, but the clinic stayed open. And I really got a deep dive into like people who are suffering from mental health issues, people who are dealing with substance issues, because the door stayed open, and a lot of people who are used to doing face-to-face things, that was part of like their treatment plans. Now they are told that they can't do those because they don't want people traveling. They don't want people leaving their houses. So there was this incredible change in the mental health dynamic of what was happening. People who were extrovert now had to become introvert. Anxiety was through the roof. People who were, introverted and were told they can't go out, now they were having anxiety. So it was a really interesting time in my life. But we pressed on, and I worked at Access for quite some time, and then eventually, made some connections in the community with some other agencies. And I've done volunteer work with the Warwick Coalition. I've done volunteer work with ADAC, Hope Not Handcuffs. I've done volunteer work with Samadhi, that same place that helped give me that scholarship. So I started working as a peer for a place called People USA, and People USA, they are all peer driven.
And before you go on to your next journey, let's hang out here for a minute.
Sure.
Because you said some really, really important things that's not caught by the naked eye, and I'm listening. And number one, you could have never planned that whole experience. It just happens. And when you're humbled and somewhat humiliated, but you still have faith and belief in yourself, things happen, and I believe that. If you're spiritual and you have a God or some kind of higher power, it's just sometimes things just happen. But you mentioned Access, and I want to give the viewers a visual of how you spell Access and how they could get in touch with Access, because it's an important organization. If you have a phone number or if you have a website, you could just say it real quickly, slowly, so that folks can kind of.
Would it be helpful?
I don't think it's like the Access that we spell normally, is it? Or
it is. And
it is, okay.
I can drop it in the chat if you want.
Perfect.
That's cool. It is spelled that way,
and it's because I've seen it, and I know there's an Access VR.
Yep.
Right, but that's spelled differently.
That's a little bit different, and then
so I'm not going to dive into that at the moment.
Yeah.
But I wanted to talk about your group, and that group, was set up for those that are sick and suffering. So if any of you that are watching that have friends or have family that you think need some support, that could be a great great place for you to go. And there it is on the chat. And then you also mentioned, as you started getting involved, like you mentioned the Warwick Coalition.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Access Support. That was it, accessupport.org.
Yeah. It's called Access Supports for Living.
Yeah. Big deal, doing great things. And you were there doing wonderful things too. Um, you had mentioned the Warwick Coalition, and those of you that are familiar with the area, I'm talking about, Warwick Valley, New York. Those of you that may be kind of far away, I know there's a Warwick, Rhode Island, so no, we're talking about Warwick, New York. And we've mentioned Orange County a couple of times, and we're talking about Orange County, New York, not the Orange County in California. But you mentioned also the coalition, and it's Warwick Valley Prevention Coalition, which also is a wonderful organization, and that's where I believe you and I met.
Mm-hmm. It is.
Because I volunteered there, you volunteered there, and I think it was just the hairless heads that kind of we bonded immediately. Oh, that's very funny. Did you see hearts? Oh my goodness gracious! Come on the screen. And from there we've just kept in touch and followed each other's paths and journeys, so to speak. Mm-hmm. You also mentioned ADAC. Mm-hmm. Can you talk about that organization,
Sure.
a little bit and share what that acronym is for?
Yeah, so ADAC is, they were originally based out of Goshen. They're the Alcohol Drug Abuse Council of Orange County. And they provide a lot of services. They provide peer support. They provide in-school prevention, early intervention, a lot of education. So they're really, and in earlier years, they worked with the Orange County DWI Task Force, which they still do now. But back then, I think it was more like Students Against Drunk Driving. But that's evolved on its own too. And they work with trying to help build coalitions throughout Orange County, anywhere from, Pine Bush all the way down to, Middletown. They do a lot of service for in schools. They also provide a lot of education, and I mean, Wayne, this is a good segue. I started volunteering for them, and then I started actually doing per diem work with them on call on weekends. They have a hotline. They have a peer hotline. So if you or somebody is struggling with life, it could be substances, it could be I'm just having a bad day. You can call a number and get connected with somebody just to talk through. And they also have contacts in the hospital. So if somebody came into the hospital who was maybe suffering with, a mental health issue or a substance use issue, they would have the social workers from the hospital call the peer. And then we would just kind of talk through and try to figure out like a safety plan, meaning, this person's not going to necessarily be admitted into the hospital, but they need a safe place to go. So what does that look like? So I did that with ADAC for a little while, and then I wanted to broaden my career a little bit more and try to do some other things. And they offered a program for what's called CASAC, and CASAC is a credentialed alcohol substance abuse counselor. And so that would actually allow you to become a licensed counselor in the state of New York. And it's a pretty intense course. And for somebody like me that's a peer advocate, now going into like a clinical type of environment, it's much different. So since I worked for them, they offered me a discount, and they said, since you're an employee, let's give you a discount. And I said, all right, cool. If you're going to give me a discount, then obviously here's a sign that I should do it. And then somebody caught wind that I had some experience with IT. So they said, hey, would you mind being the class liaison? Because COVID was still, we were still doing a lot of virtual things. They were trying to do in-person classes with masks on. But, if somebody was not feeling well, then they would shut the class down. So they needed somebody to, set up the Zoom meetings, help the teachers with their assignments and PowerPoints and stuff. And I said, yeah, I can do that. And they said, cool, if you help us out with that, you know what, we're just going to pay for the whole course. And I think the whole course is like $3,500. So
it's not cheap.
Yet again, here's another like shot of the universe being like, hey, we see you. Here's a door for you, bro. It's open.
You couldn't have planned it, my friend. You couldn't have planned it. Right?
And if I ever questioned where I needed to be in my life and in my career, there's no doubt I paid attention to that, because these things just don't happen. So I took the course. I completed it in this past July. It was very intense. I was never really a good student to begin with, so it was really difficult for me. But the instructors that were there, they really wanted everybody to be as successful as they could. So if you just showed up and you were willing to do some work and, you know, be vulnerable and ask questions, you know, everybody in the class ended up doing really well. And, you know, happy to share. There's some people that had never experienced this sort of work in this kind of environment, and they've gone on to get jobs, you know, and they're like crushing it in the field right now. And, you know, we all keep in touch. They're working at rehabs and, you know, seeing people on a day-to-day basis. So they're really doing really good work as well.
You know, you speaking of, I got to interrupt again, because it being a small world, you know, I was on the committee for the Warwick Valley Prevention Coalition, which is a coalition that they work with the schools and they bring awareness of vaping and drugs and bullying and suicide, and it's the full gamut, but they focused on our youth, our future. And that's where I met you. And then I met another guy who was a part of the coalition back then. And I didn't see you too much because, you know, our paths weren't crossing as much anymore. And I saw this, I met this guy named Ryan Caldwell, and you know, he hit it off because he was way into the coalition, man. I was learning a lot of stuff from him. He was well spoken and just knew that area surely a lot better than myself. And so you told me, you know, you were going to this CASAC class. And when I saw Ryan, I said, you know, Ryan, and then Ryan had told me one day, hey, you know, I'm going to go for my CASAC-T, because Wayne Patterson did as well. And I was sharing with Ryan that I was, you know, working on mine. He goes, yes, I applied for it and I'm going to be going through ADAC. And I say, you know, it's funny because a friend of mine named Kevin is taking, and you guys knew one another. It was like, you know, just full circle. We all three know each other, but didn't know that we knew each other, you know. Another journey and a story you couldn't make up, right? In this area of support and help, you know.
Yeah, it's great how those.
So I'm sorry I had to interrupt and just share that story because it really is unbelievable.
So where am I at today? I got my CASAC-T while I was working with People USA. I was a contractor for the Ulster County Sheriff's Office. The Ulster County Sheriff Office has a program called Oracle, ORACLE, and that stands for Opioid Response as County Law Enforcement. Big acronym, big name. I was really kind of doing what they call care management. I would call people on the phone and see if they needed, you know, food, shelter, if they were interested in going to like outpatient, inpatient, you know, just real basic things. And while I was there, they posted another job for the county. So I was a contractor working for People USA. They posted another county position. And to be honest with you, I mean, the benefits and the pay were much better than what I was doing. And I said, I'm already here. I'm already taking this drive. I really like what the team does. And so I applied for it. And I don't know if anybody knows anything about the application process for a county job. It is very long. So I think the whole process, I applied in September and my actual start date was February 22nd of 2022. So it was long. Thorough background check. I mean, I'm working as a civilian in the sheriff's office. So, I mean, they wanted to know what I ate for breakfast in 3rd grade on Tuesday, you know, everything, which I'm glad. I mean, they did a very thorough process, and, you know, that is comforting at the end of the day. So that's where I'm at today. Today I work for a team called Oracle. It's made up of law enforcement, civilians, and social workers. The team started in 2019 through a grant that the sheriff got. The sheriff of Ulster County, Juan Figueroa, he is very progressive. He heard about this at a sheriff's conference down south, and he said, I want to do something similar to this opioid response team, because as we all know, the opioid pandemic is running rampant right now. So what we do is when there are overdoses reported in the county, if somebody calls 911 and says, I think somebody's having an overdose, 911 in Ulster County dispatches EMTs or police officers. We work with all of the agencies in the county. Once the overdose happens, we get a report. John Smith had an overdose. Here's the address. Our team responds to that person within 24 to 72 hours. We try to get them when they're at that vulnerable low point. A lot of times these guys are at the very lowest point of their entire life, and we try to get in there and say, what can we do to help you? Sometimes there's people who have looked at me and said, nobody's ever asked me if I wanted help. Everybody just tells me what I need to do. And so here we come along and we're like, what can we do to help you? And it could be something as simple as, I lost my ID a few months ago. I need an ID so that I can start DSS services, so I can get a food card, so I can go get myself food, or go to DSS so that I can get placed in emergency housing, so I have a warm, safe place to sleep. Or I want to go to rehab. I want to stop using drugs. I don't know how to do it. And so it really started out as opioid, and it has evolved into today in 2023, everything. I mean, we are working with teens who are suffering with mental health issues. We work very closely with the Department of Mental Health in Ulster County, the Department of Health in Ulster County, multiple agencies. And we toe the line coming into Orange County a little bit because, the south side of the county, you have like Pine Bush, the hamlet of Wallkill, Walden. They're kind of Ulster and Orange County, depending on your address. And, we do it all. If somebody wants to go to a treatment facility and they say, oh, I want to get out of the state, we'll try to find somewhere out of state. We've driven people to Vermont. We've driven people down to Maryland. We've put people on planes to Florida. And we work closely with those other agencies throughout the county. One of the things that I'm responsible for is I actually go into the jail and I meet with incarcerated individuals. When they get arrested and they come through our medical department, they ask them if they want, hey, have you ever used substances? Yes. Do you want to speak to somebody about that? Yes. Cool. If they say no, then we just keep it moving. But the sheriff also is kind of tired of the revolving door. And the revolving door meaning these people are coming into the jails for petty larceny because they're stealing things to pawn to buy drugs, possession because they're actively using, so they have drugs on their person, and they come into the jail. They sit there for a little while. They either get bonded or bailed out, or they get a court date and they get released, and they come back a few months later. And the sheriff said, we're not helping these people. We're not helping them. Let's help them. So we get to go into the jail and say, hey, are you tired of doing this? And they say, very much so. We say, cool. We're going to try to help you out. So we've had more court mandates in the last 6 months to get people mandated to treatment because it pulls them out of the jail. They can go somewhere where they actually get help that they need and deserve. And they can actually have a new lease on life. They're not sleeping under the bridges. They're not on the streets. They're not, running here, running there. And it's really such a cool program. I mean, I live in Greenwood Lake right now, and I drive to Ulster County every day, and people are like, are you out of your mind? And I'm like, yeah, but I love my job, And so,
And
yeah, I don't know.
no traffic.
No.
It's not like you go into New York City.
Yeah,
every day.
I'm going the opposite way.
Yes, no traffic.
But I mean, we've won awards. We get to go out into the community. Last year, we distributed 2,300 boxes of Narcan. You know, we fed thousands of people through Catholic charities. We get like non-perishable foods to give out to people. We have funds where we can help people have a safe motel for the night. If they're either transitioning to therapy or they're coming out of rehab, we can put them up for, you know, up to 26 days so that they can get on their feet. So we're not just tossing them back to the streets, you know. And then not only that, we follow up with people. I still talk to people that I helped a year ago, you know, and like most of the time it's good. There's also times that it's not good where people have reoccurrences and, you know, they've picked back up. So, but listen, you know, we, every day I'm just like, so like honored to be able to go out there and like, just try to help people. You know, I tell people all the time, the only excuse that I'll accept is that you just don't want help.
Right. I think that you seem, it's very rewarding, I know, and it could be very frustrating for those that you see coming back like it's a revolving door. I'm sure the CASAC training helped tremendously with this role as well. And I know you need a lot of hours to actually get certified. Are you working with a licensed social worker or something now so that some of what you're doing for work can count for those hours?
I am. So our
Nice.
team, we're not an OASIS facility. We don't have an OASIS license, but my supervisor, she's actually a CASAC master, and she's so she's a social worker. So there's a way to be able to apply those hours. It's just a different level of paperwork that has to get filled out.
Good.
So yeah, all of that gets to count. But I mean, I'll tell you, Wayne, you know, when I first started taking the CASAC course, you know, I remember Jim Conklin, who's the director of ADAC, he said, you know, you might have a hard time going from a peer role where your whole purpose is to disclose that you're in recovery. You've been in a similar journey as these people. And with the CASAC role, it's more of a clinical role, and they don't really want you to self-disclose. So I'm trying to find where I want to land with that, you know.
They can tell just
course.
by the way you speak. You know, we can tell. We know somebody that's just got educated and someone that has brought life experience into the education. You know?
Well, I'll tell you also too, Wayne. I mean, listen, every opportunity that's come my way since I started this almost 6 years ago, it's been a very the direction I'm supposed to go in has been very obvious. So I have a feeling when that time comes, I'm gonna know which direction I need to go in.
Yeah.
But we just got another grant through our team. It was 1.4 million. So that's gonna push us over for the next 4 years. So I mean, right now I don't have any plans to go anywhere. I mean, we're just continuing evolving and growing. You know, and there's not always a glorious side to the work that we do either. You know, you and I had talked previously, and we were talking about like data and stats, and like, you know, I can just give you an example. Between Friday and Monday, we had 13 overdoses in Ulster County, which alerts they call it a spike, and so we had 5 in less than 24 hours and 13 total between Friday and Monday. So, you know, it's a lot of tough stuff to deal with too, because, you know, those weren't fatal. Thank God they weren't fatal. But, you know, in August we had, you know, 14 fatal overdoses in the month of August.
That's terrible.
Yeah.
Now,
so
and those are the ones that run to a hospital or the police find out about or EMS finds out about. What about the ones where they have the Narcan at home and a family member passes out and the other family member brings them back with Narcan?
Yeah.
And they say, we're not going to police. We're not, you know, we don't want, You know, we don't want the police to get involved. We don't want hospitals to get involved. We don't want it recorded. You know, how many of those things are happening? Oh my God, right?
Yeah.
You know, before we go any further too, you know, Amy introduced me, I introduced you, and, you know, we have Patricia Valentino sitting here in the corner, and she's had some technical issues today. So all you see is a pretty face, right? You don't see any movement. Trish, are you there? Or are you still having, oh, hi.
I'm here. Yes. Hi, Kevin. Hi, Wayne. Hi, Amy.
Hi. It's
Hey.
great to hear you. I'm sorry I'm not seeing that one wonderful, fun face.
Thank you. Great
But
to see you.
Kevin's information, unbelievable, right?
Kevin, you're a rock star. Thank you for all the service you're doing in the community. It's enormous. It's really enormous.
Thank you.
You had mentioned in passing as well that, you know, your office was not Oasis, I guess certified or something, or can you share what Oasis is?
Oh, geez. We can look it up real quick. So in a nutshell, Oasis is they are the team out of New York. It's the Office of Addiction and Substance Abuse Services.
It's a simple phrase, but it's like it's too simple. You think it's something sophisticated.
Yeah, they actually sort of run the criteria, the code of ethics, the rules for rehabs, detoxes, etc. They hold these places to very high standards to make sure that the treatment is the same across the board. The facilities have specific, you know, rules, policies, procedures, regulations that they all have to follow. We don't have that because number one, we don't provide detox or rehab. We're really a bridge. We work in a very crisis-driven environment. So what we do is we take the person and try to get them the immediate help that they need. We bring them to the detox. We bring them to the hospital. We bring them to the rehab. But that's really what Oasis does.
Yeah, and I know the real critical effort of Oasis is determining how many hours we need to get our CASAC license.
Yeah, it's a lot.
I think it's like years. It's years of training hours, but they look at your background, your education, your employment, and they factor that in, and they use some of those numbers to reduce the number of hours, which, you know, because you're getting life experience here, and that's pretty awesome. I did have some questions. And I know it's funny how you went from an IT world where you were focused on computers and connectivity and users and now you're helping people. You were helping people back then, but this is a more interactive, and what you're helping people with sometimes are life and death situations. You know, the disease of alcoholism and addiction are killing folks. And if they're not killing people, they're having them think it's okay for them to get behind the wheel and operate an automobile and go home or go visit somebody and black out, and sometimes kill themselves, and worse, kill other people, you know. So what you're doing, I know it has to be very, very rewarding, and it is life and death situations for many. So I take my hat off to you and what you're doing. and I love you. I love you for it.
Thank
The organizations, well, we were talking earlier, and you come across a lot of people that have been touched. Like you had talked about Students Against Drunk Driving, and now Warwick has, and it was SADD, SADD, and now Warwick High School has a SADD group, but it's not Students Against Drunk Driving, it's Students Against Destructive Decisions.
Yeah, and I love that. I'm glad that it's evolved that way, because it really encompasses so much more. You might have somebody who's dealing with body image issues, and they're self-harming themselves. And it's not just necessarily a drug or an alcohol, but it's bullying somebody, cutting themselves, because they don't feel well, negative attention. And I love that Warwick is really, they're so progressive with this stuff. They really are. And they have so much community buy-in. And really that's where it's at. When you have parents who really are involved, they want to see their kids, the community, being supported. It makes a huge difference. I can speak on behalf of other school districts, and sometimes it's just, you hear parents say, like, it's just a cigarette. It's just a beer on the weekends, and I'm like, oh man. But
right. And the many think we don't have a problem here, not our school, not our kids.
Yeah.
And Warwick was kind of like that, at when I first moved up here. And it seems over the years.
And Wayne, if I may, while we're talking about high school
Yes.
and middle school right now, we have seen just in the last 3 months a tremendous spike of suicide attempts by teenagers. And man, this tugs at my heart. This is where I get really, like, work becomes a little bit more difficult for me, because I have teenagers, and I have a 20, a 14, and an 8-year-old, and like, seeing some of these babies who are, attempting to kill themselves by ways of where they think. And I can give you an example. There was a young girl. She was 14. She ate an entire container of CBD gummies. Now, I don't know how much you guys know about marijuana, but CBD is not meant to get you high. It's more of a, pain relief or anti-inflammation. People take it who are arthritic or have pulled muscles. And so the thought process in her head was like, she really wanted to, like, end her life. And that's what she chose to take. Really speaks volumes. And we got together as a team, and like, we sat down with the Department of Mental Health and we said, we need to get in these schools. We need to help these kids, because to be in so much pain that you want to just take your own life, and that's the route that you choose without even knowing that the basic education of what you're taking, the behavior there. And so, we've seen a tremendous spike just in the last couple of months of teenage kids who are having these suicide attempts. Yeah.
It's horrible. I mean, it's horrible. Suicides in general have skyrocketed here in Warwick.
Yeah.
And we were talking about that earlier as well. And we have an organization being started called Warwick Cares, and that'll be a webinar for another day.
So a lot of these kids fall under the gap, fall through the cracks. And, sometimes it's the kids that are causing the most problems that get the most attention, whereas the kids who are quieter and kind of on the outskirts, they don't get the attention that they deserve by the staff in the schools.
Or need.
Right. So, and then you also have, the pharmaceutical companies and the psychiatrists who are just, well, we're going to give you this for that. And then you're going to have 3 side effects on that. And then we're going to give you something else to help curb the side effects, and then so on and so forth. And, you know, in my experience in this field, we see kids who have, they're taking substances that mimic the same behaviors as somebody who's having a psychosis or hallucinations. And so these kids are taking substances, they're having these side effects from the substances, and then they get put into, you know, intensive therapy, they get put into psych wards, when really, you know, they're ingesting very high levels of like THC that are not designed for just, you know, a small 13-year-old body. And, you know, they have these mood disorders, panic attacks, anxiety, psychosis, and then they end up getting put into a psych ward and, you know, going down that route. So really what the co-occurring does is they try to advocate for obviously abstaining from drugs or alcohol, but then also to getting the proper mental health support that you really need.
You know, it's
a lot.
And we find out too that the CASACs, the licensed therapists, psychiatrists, the social workers, the number getting into those professions are declining as the number of cases of suicide, addiction, mental health issues are increasing. It's so we, you, Amy, you know, Trish, we do the best that we can to bring awareness. That's why we're sitting here today. And we hope that there's at least one person watching that will call you or get on and reach out to Access or reach out to ADAC. You know, Orange County, New York has a 911 crisis number now. It's called 311, and it's a crisis number.
And I know some of the therapists that work for the county for the 311, and they're phenomenal therapists who also, they just want to help. You know, they just really want to help.
And it's 24/7. 24/7. You can reach out to them. It's a wonderful facility, and they're there just, you know, hoping that they can help when that phone rings.
Yeah.
You know, and then suicide has become such an issue now. There's a 988 number to call, you know, and you hope and you pray. I have to share a quick story that somebody that I know called me recently within the last month and a half. And they say, Wayne, my neighbor just shot himself in the head. That the police are here and the EMS is here, and you know, and I was, wow, you know, wow. And it wasn't like she was looking for me to really say anything. She just wanted someone to talk to that would understand. And I'm on the sandbox with this so often that she felt that person was me. Right. And then she thanked me and our organization for being there, for being able to listen. And as she's saying these words, I said, you know, no, yes, I you know, thank you. And I was, you know, saying you're welcome, but I would have hoped the person with the gun called me, you know, or called somebody. Which means that our work is not done. We're not bringing enough awareness out there. We're not letting people know who they can call, and we want to put it in their face.
Yeah, well,
put it in their face. Put it in their face. Everywhere they turn, they'll see a number. They'll see a website. They'll
You and
see
I
an
spoke
ad,
about that.
huh?
You and I spoke about that earlier, and like, you know, I'm a huge advocate for having conversations. Like, there's so many people in our community who are like, you know, they want to turn the blind eye, not my kid, not my family, not my neighbor, until it is. And I want to smash that stuff. Like, let's sit down and talk about this, because this is real life. You
Yeah,
know, you want to have the
we do.
conversation.
You said it earlier. We still have the stigma
Yeah,
of mental illness, of addiction, of suicide. You
yeah,
know, and that stigma, uh, you know, it's better than it was, but it's still not where it should be.
yeah.
You
I mean,
know, it should
look at
be.
the organization that I'm working with. I mean, I work with cops, and like, you know, I don't know if you know many cops, but like and we have really turned a corner with them, because there was a time where we would hear things like, let them die, thin the herd, because they were responding to the same interviews as the same person over and over. Now you have cops who are working with this team who are actually going out and caring about people, treating people like, just treating them like human beings, and saying, hey, we know that you're not well, we want to try to get you help. So now it becomes like this attraction of like, well, he's being nice to this guy, I can be nice to them because I see the results that they get. And so it goes, you hope. And it's amazing that the buy-in that way. We have a spot that opened up on our team for a law enforcement spot. 11 people applied. That doesn't sound like a high number, but when you're talking about law enforcement and actual deputies, that number is huge.
Right.
Huge. There was a time they were trying to ask people, they couldn't get one person to even volunteer a weekend. And now there's like 11 people that want to come and try to help out. So, you know, we're smashing that stigma too with, you know,
Awesome.
yeah.
You know, earlier too, you had mentioned that you wanted to remain teachable.
Yes.
You know, that you want to stay in that learning mode, you know, and it's, you know, it's like we go to college, we get our degrees, right, Amy? We get our undergraduate, we get our masters, we get our licenses, CPA, you know, or whatever licenses we may have. And we say, thank God the education is over. And I'm here to say we should always be learning. You know, we should always be learning, because the world is, these youths are moving quick, the drugs are moving fast, the different areas of mental illness are just increasing, and we need to be on the top of our game to at least understand, so we could direct people to the right source. Sure. to help, you know, and that's all that we're trying to do through Team Up for Hope. And actually Team Up for Hope is all one word.org, is somewhere you can go and you could see the 311 number, the 988 number. You could see what we're doing. You could see some other webinars that we're doing as well. And we're just kind of bringing it. We're trying to keep it real with what's really happening today. And we're trying to get the information and awareness, because it is a problem, and it's never a problem for those that have no interest until it enters their home. Right?
Of course.
And you never want it to enter their home. You never, and if it does, you want them to have access to who they should be speaking with to help, and not just saying, oh my God, this is horrible, being able to move quickly and call Team Up for Hope, call 988, call 311, reach out to Kevin. We're kind of winding down, but I wanted to open up. Amy, do you have any questions for Kevin at all about anything related to?
First I wanted to say thank you so much for your service. I just find it truly amazing, and I'm just so grateful for you and your organization and everybody in this field.
Thank you.
That does, that helps people get over the hump, or at least just to be there for them in that moment of time where, they could overdose or they could kill themselves. So Thank you for that. Thank you for being on our webinar. And I was wondering, does Orange County have an Oracle program?
No. Mm-mm. No, they don't. So there's a, let me see. I'll try to do the best I can. There's something that's called the Healing Initiative, and it's through a college out of New York City, and they are really what's driving right now. So it's a healing community study, and that's through I can't remember the college right now. I apologize. Ulster County was one of the first phases for this new initiative to work with opioid pandemic. Orange County is having those meetings now. I am on the steering committee for with that. So right now they're trying to really take a lot of data from the county and try to come up with what's the best way that we can do that. Sullivan County is doing something right now that's very similar to what Oracle does. You know, there's organizations like Hope Not Handcuffs that do work with law enforcement, but it's more of just a, you know, they'll make phone calls to help people get to treatment. And then there's, so what they're trying to do with this initiative is do a lot of studies and try to figure out where are the problems the worst in the county, and like, what can we do to try to help bridge that gap? I'm hoping with the recent elections with the new sheriff, one of the undersheriffs actually left Ulster County to come to Orange County. She was very supportive of our program as well too. I'm hoping now that these conversations, these people, I mean, I'll be completely transparent. The old sheriff, when this stuff really started coming around, he was already on retirement. So I don't necessarily know if it was a priority at that point. But this new sheriff seems a lot more progressive and a lot more motivated. So I'm hoping that we'll have a seat at the table for this. From what I'm hearing from other people in the community, you know, there's people that work for the Department of Mental Health who in Orange County who know about Oracle. I've worked with them before on volunteer basis, have had a lot of phone calls with them. People like Ryan Caldwell, who you had mentioned earlier, you know, he's a huge advocate for this stuff too. So I think every county who has a high number of people who suffer from substance use, whether it's opioids or not, should at least have a team to try to like give it a try. You know, we recently had Putnam County. We're doing work with them. They're trying to get their own team started as well too. So they've been coming down and asking questions and how it works, because there's a lot of stuff on the back end too. Like we don't just, you know, we have so much data that we have to collect and gather and report on. You know, there's a team in my office that, you know, we have HIDA analysts, which is high intensity drug traffic area, which Ulster County is. So they have an analyst who specifically, her job is to take all of this information, whether it's your basic demographics, you know, your race, your address, your substance use, how many times, your age, all of that stuff, and then collect all that data and push it out. So no, short answer is Orange County does not have one. Long answer is that hopefully somewhere in the very near future, you'll see something like this come together.
Yeah, we have here in Orange County, we have a lot of pockets, and we have coalitions in the urban areas within Orange County. Newburgh has a coalition, Port Jervis has a coalition, Warwick has a coalition, Middletown has a coalition, and they all work together. They're all very close with ADAC. They're very close with the Resource Recovery Resource Recovery Group. That's another organization. They're working very close with all the law enforcement agencies. Warwick Police are tied into everything that we do. You know, there's also there's NAMI, the National Alliance for Mental Illness. You know, and there's an Orange County chapter of that. There's the Mental Health Organization out of Middletown. So there's a lot of groups. I took my CASAC at SUNY Orange, and the director of the Mental Health organization for Orange County. The director was one of the teachers. So her and I have kept in touch, and she's staying plugged in, and she's excited about, helping the sick and suffering, and I'm excited about helping the sick and suffering, and Kevin is excited, and the coalitions are excited, and Ryan's excited, and Amy, you're excited, and our excitement, with this Warwick Cares group that you just met with yesterday, as a matter of fact, that's going to snowball into more awareness of to just snowball through Warwick and to other cities throughout the county. So, it's a big elephant, and we eat it one bite at a time. We do the best that we can with what we have. Trish, did you have any questions for Kevin before we say goodbye?
I do not at this time. Thank you for asking. I just want to echo what Amy responded, how Amy spoke before about the fact that Kevin, we're very grateful for the service that you're doing, and if you're helping one person today, your job is done. If we can help 50 or 60 a day, that'd be amazing. But the reality is, one person a day would be a huge blessing. Thank you.
Thanks, Trish.
And before we sign off, I do, Nicole brought to my attention, she's a mutual friend of ours, something called Ryan's House.
Yeah. Ryan's House, yeah. Sure.
Yeah, share that because that
Sure.
seems to be something that's pretty exciting as well.
So in Ulster County, there is a organization called Ryan's House, and Ryan Kelder unfortunately lost his life to a drug overdose, and his parents wanted to carry on his legacy and to try to, sometimes we feel so hopeless. All we can do is just try to do whatever we can to try to help and not have another family go through that same experience. So they ended up buying an old house. It was an early 1800s house, a very big old home in Saugerties. And what they did is they've gone through these phases of transforming the house into, ultimately it's going to be sober living. But right now, and sober living meaning if somebody comes out of rehab and they need a safe place to go, that's going to be, have sober people there, sober supports there. They'll put them up there and help them get re-entered into the community, help them get, work, a job, things like that. So what they also created is this giant clubhouse in the main level of the house. So it's, it's massive. There's tables, there's chairs. It's almost like an auditorium style. And they have meetings there, 12-step meetings for the community. And they start at like 6:15 in the morning and they go to 9 o'clock at night. The coffee pot's always on. There's always people there that are willing to like drive you, take you somewhere. If you need, something else, just bringing it all together. They do all these really big fundraisers throughout the year so that they can try to continue to do work on the house. Right now, they're almost done with the upstairs for the bedrooms so that they can actually move people in to have them, staying there. But there were some folks from Orange County that saw this and really loved this idea. So they got some financial backing, and now they're going to try to open up another Ryan House in Orange County. So this year, this May, they're having the first annual Ryan's Run out in Newburgh at Chadwick Lake Park. And, it's basically a run, walk, 5K, 10K. They'll be, they're going to try to raise money to try to get a house started in Orange County. Because, it's really, those types of places are needed. There's 12-step programs. There's multiple pathways to recovery. There's different kinds of programs for people if 12-step is not their thing. Ryan House actually, helps advocate for whatever you need to do to try to live a life of being abstinent of drugs and alcohol. If that works for you, then that's what they want to try to help out. So really having this place where meetings are, practically from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. every day, it really allows people to have a safe place to go if they need to,
It's wonderful. It's
Yeah.
wonderful.
Cool.
And, you know, other than Team Up for Hope, I'm also a Rotarian. I'm also involved with the Lions Club. And in those areas, there are local Lions clubs and Rotary clubs. And you and I are going to talk offline for me to connect you with those organizations, because that's what they do. They look for local organizations, and this is surely, I'm sure it's a non-for-profit, and they look to support it either physically or with resources or money. So that's something that I can do. I'll surely make the Orange County Rotary and Lions aware that something is coming into Orange County as well, so that we can back that and be a part of that effort too. You know, wow, you know, an hour has come and gone, and I feel like I could talk another hour with you about all that you do and elaborate on more that you've already shared, but that'll be for another day, another time. Kevin, thank you very, very much for joining us Team Up for Hope, and sharing a lot of wow information and some personal growth stuff that you shared that makes my heart, you know, raising awareness, baby. That's what it's all about, right? Yeah. Amy, once again, thank you for introducing. Trish, thank you for being there. And in the background, there is Jane Steinhoff. You know, she allows this whole Hollywood Square setup for us to be able to see one another and talk. She provides the connectivity and the links for all of this to happen. Thank you all. Continue, Kevin, doing what you're doing. You as well, Amy. Peace and love. And I'll talk to all of you soon.
Thank you guys so much. Take care.
Such an honor to meet you, Kevin. Thank you.
You. Appreciate it, Amy. Hopefully I'll see you soon.
Yes, you will, for sure.
Good night, guys. Thank you.
Okay, brother. Have a great day.
Be well. Take care.